B&M inverts were introduced at a time when B&M was at its absolute peak. This model does a very good job at highlighting what coasters can do, and to this day they still stand the test of time. Of course, this model is known for its relentless intensity with positive G's and whip. There are a total of 33 inverts, but 12 of them are those stupid Batman clones, which I am going to say, they suck. I mean, they are good, but they are not a top tier invert like everyone says they are. Also, I know some Batman clones are unique because of theming. There's one that squirts on you. What? What the f***? Today we are focusing on the layout, so all Batman clones will be one coaster. Anyways, putting that aside, today we are ranking every single B&M invert. This includes defunct ones like Dueling Dragons. I obviously have not been on every coaster in this video, but it's supposed to be a more unique and diverse list that includes selections from across the globe. So that's with that out of the way, let's get into today's video. The worst B&M invert goes to Nemesis Inferno. Now this is not a bad coaster, it's far from it. The one problem with this coaster is it just falls short to its sister coaster, Nemesis at Alton Towers. With both of these inverts sharing similar statistics and both being in Britain, they get compared to each other a lot. Like, a lot. And Nemesis Inferno always falls into the shadow of Nemesis. Does it deserve this? No, but it does mean it's a way weaker invert. The best thing about this coaster is the pre-lift that drops you into the mist. I love when coasters do this, like it was probably my favorite part of Hulk, but that's really the best part. There's 4 inversions packed into this layout, but not one whole huge punch, and that's why it's the weakest invert out there. It also can have a little headbang, which is odd for B&M. The 21st spot goes to Monster at Grona Lund. It's no surprise that this coaster is this far down the rankings. It's built on a plot of land where no coaster should be. Grona Lund really put in a hand, foot, and a leg to construct this coaster where it stands today. We all got excited when we heard that B&M was building an invert again after such a long time, but is this the way we saw it? No, it's simply not.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
This is the problem of having a fully developed theme park. I do think it's really cool to fly around over buildings, but it also ends up being a really underachieving layout. This coaster is not filled with the over-intensity you see in other inverts, it's lacking a vertical loop, which is one of the signature elements of B&M inverts. It does have some cool helixes, so it will deliver some positives, but all the inversions are rolls and will bring some whip at most. So the 3 inversions it packs into the layout is not the best of the best, and it's not B&M's fault, it's not Grona Lund's fault, it's just the way it ended up and had to be. The 20th spot goes to Patriot. This is what we call a B&M invert that does not deliver. The layout is not inherently bad, it just lacks the speed that you would need to hit the high intensity marks. The vertical loop is not crazy forceful, the 0G roll doesn't deliver any whip, and the rest of the elements just don't really deliver. It's a smooth, graceful ride, not a crazy intense out of this world experience. And when you are talking about B&M inverts, you have to go hard or go home, unless you have amazing theming of course, which Patriot definitely does not, so it ends up in the bottom half. In the 19th spot is Great Bear at Hershey Park. When we talk about unconventional invert layouts, this is the prime example. This coaster was built on a very small profile on the side of a river, and you could tell that the options were very limited. Unlike other inverts, this coaster, most of the elements deliver very well. The vertical loop delivers positives, so does the Immelman, the 0G roll and corkscrew have a lot of whip. The thing that makes this coaster subpar is the amount of meandering it has. There are so many times where you had to get out of the way of some other thing and take some uninspired segment in between or back into the station. It feels very much like you're riding on a straight track and is what makes this coaster shoot down the rankings. The one rewarding thing though is you have the views of the water while riding this coaster. The 18th spot goes to Talent. Now this invert falls short for very similar reasons as Patriot. In fact, these 2 inverts feel very similar to each other in general. Now a lot of enthusiasts say this ride is insane and like the Montu of the North and whatever, but it's forceless.
Hey yo, what the
There are some positives in the first drop in the loop, but like the rolls are just completely and utterly forceless. It's not terrible, it's a smooth coaster with the gimmick of being off the track, but it just does not do much with what it has. Like Patriot, I think this coaster could do a little better with speed, but for now it ends up with the 18th spot. Before we go into this super controversial take, I would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. It means a lot more than you think and will help a small channel like us grow. Like I said, this is a super controversial take, but I wholeheartedly agree with it and you can't tell me no. The 17th spot goes to all the Batman clones in the world. There's 12 of them to be exact. Apart from being cloned at like every Six Flags park and it being everywhere, Batman is a very solid invert. It packs in one of the craziest punches in such a short amount of time. Every single element delivers with positive G's and whip, and it's perfect for what it does. It's a small compact layout, which makes it a very short ride. It's kind of annoying that it's everywhere, that's like my biggest complaint with it, but it's also very short. While its coaster is very good, it's not the best, and it shows how good this model can really become. And another controversial take is ranking the 16th spot, Silver Bullet, over Batman clones.
You're dumb as a mule and twice as ugly.
I feel like I might have lost some of you here, but I truly enjoy Silver Bullet more than Batman clones. It might be because it's a unique layout and whatever, or that it has some cool scenery. I just feel like Silver Bullet is a more pure and intimate experience, and is why I enjoy this coaster so much more than the clones. Silver Bullet is not the best invert ever, we all know that. It gets so much hate for the first drop, and while yes, it's a the first drop, it's not the worst thing ever. It's really about what comes after the drop that everyone cares about, which is that vertical loop, and Silver Bullet's vertical loop still doesn't deliver. So why do I like this coaster? I have no idea. It might be a piece of it holding on to me. The helix over the water goes hard, and one of the rolls in the layout is whippy. The rest of the elements don't deliver, and it's only slight positive G's, but this coaster is just better than a Batman clone, and you can't change my mind. The 15th spot goes to Flight Deck at California's Great America. While this coaster may be headed to the scrapyard, I would enjoy it while it lasts. The first half is nothing really special and is comparable to other inverts. The 3 inversions all deliver, but there's only 3 inversions, so it's not like the most action-packed layout you would see. The highlighting moment that everyone goes home and raves about is that final helix over the water, which delivers some positive G's and a nice view. You can tell that this is one of the first ever inverts with a subpar layout and a little bit of a rattle, and that's why it falls into the 15th spot. In the number 14th spot is Raptor. I know this coaster has a clone, but we'll talk about it later, you'll see. I feel like this is the point where you start to see inverts that deliver really well, like where every element hits hard and is very intense. This invert is probably best known for being at Cedar Point, and that's about it. But yeah, the layout delivers and it is a very whippy coaster. This is starting to show its age and the second half can get a little rough, but still, solid mid-tier invert. The number 13 spot goes to another invert named Monster and the clone of Raptor. Now this had to get a second spot because it had something that Raptor does not, or more like Raptor has something that this coaster does not, a mid-course brake run. Yes, you heard it right. Monster is a Raptor clone without the mid-course brake run. Now that is insane. Where you would normally see brakes on Raptor, there is nothing on Monster, and you just continue the amazing layout without any speed lost. And more speed equals a more intense and fun experience, so Monster is better than Raptor. The 12th spot goes to Hungarian Horntail. This is one of the defunct coasters on this list and was part of the legendary Dueling Dragons. If you haven't noticed, we have separated this coaster into 2 credits because the 2 tracks offer different experiences and definitely differ in numerous ways. Now these 2 coasters are highly debated which one is better, and me having absolutely no experience about the 2, I'm going to put it here. Hungarian Horntail is slightly shorter than Chinese Fireball, and while it may be shorter, it does mean it's better paced and it also has a more diverse series of elements. It is also known to be slightly rougher than the Chinese Fireball side. We will get into why I think the Chinese Fireball side is better, but the Hungarian Horntail or the Blue Track or the Ice side will fall into the 12th spot. The 11th spot goes to Afterburn. This is what I like to call an uninspired version of Montu. It's missing the second half of Montu and the immaculate theming, but it does feel very similar. Maybe it's the Batwing, maybe not, but it just does. I also feel like a Batman clone in the sense that it hauls and whips through the layout while feeling like a very short ride duration, and that's really the only thing wrong with this ride. Every element delivers strong, sustained positive G's, it has a whip, it has 6 inversions, it's just on the shorter side. The 10th spot goes to Chinese Fireball, which is the counterpart to Dueling Dragons and is the red track. Now I had never mentioned the dueling aspect when talking about the blue side, but what made this coaster was the dueling. When Universal took the dueling aspect away, it was a hollow shell of a person, but we were going to talk about when it did duel. The red side hasn't all the immense amount of whip and pacing that the blue side did. The sequence of elements were a little different, which also led to a slightly more interaction with the blue side. Instead of having a standalone Cobra roll, you have an Immelman and a second corkscrew at the end, which I think is better. And if you need more evidence, this track is 5 miles per hour faster and the drop is 20 feet taller. So Hungarian Horntail, you can suck it. Though what made this coaster was the fact that it dueled. Imagine if it was a Mobius loop through, that would be one sick contraption. The 9th spot goes to Black Mamba at Phantasialand. Now, unlike some of the other inverts up here, this is not the most crazy intense ride. It's up there with the names of Silver Bullet and Patriot.
No.
What makes this coaster rank so high is the theming. This is what you would get from Phantasialand. Pretty much the whole invert is dug in the trenches as it flies through the Africa section of the park. This makes for an insane amount of near-miss elements and a very disorienting experience. So while this coaster may not be out of this world, the theming is, so it falls in the upper half. In the number 8 spot is Fabian at Yeonju World. This invert is not commonly heard of because it's in Korea, but it definitely deserves more of the spotlight. Every element in this coaster is hit with positive Gs. There are no dead moments at all. It's also quite smooth and has that whip you would see elsewhere. This coaster is pretty much Raptor without a mid-course, but there are also some added wave turns that give what sounds to be floater. The reason why it's so much better than Monster is because it has a good amount of theming. The plaza and the queue line are both above par, and for me that adds so much more to a coaster than the layout ever could. After all, you spend like most of your day in the line, so it's the most memorable part of a park for me. The 7th spot goes to Banshee at Kings Island. This coaster has its moments, and it also has some bad moments. Of course, this is a massive beast. It stands twice as tall as most B&M inverts and also packs in a serious punch. The first drop, dive loop, and first loop all deliver amazing positive Gs and are some of the highlighting moments of the ride. The 0G roll could have a little bit more kick into that, and the pretzel knot, they both need a little more oomph, but hey, it's not that bad. There then is a second vertical loop, which is much smaller than the first and thus more forceful, so it makes up for what was lost in the middle. This coaster ends with a solid inline twist, sandwiching the bad elements together. So it goes good first half, subpar middle segment, good finale, and that's Banshee for you. The 6th spot goes to Alpengeist. This wannabe hypercoaster has a very cool lift hill. Why is that the only thing that comes to mind? Now of course, like all the other inverts, Alpengeist is known for its relentless intensity as it hauls and flies through the layout. Why is it not the best? It's simply the mid-course brake run. Alpengeist has the best first half out of many inverts out there. The problem is the mid-course brake run hits hard, like very hard, and it kind of ruins the second half, and that's really the only thing stopping Alpengeist for competing with the best, and is why it falls into the number 6 spot. Starting off our top 5 is Osiris at Park Asterix, and now this may be on the weaker side of inverts.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I see this coaster is in a very similar situation to Black Mamba, as it's not the most crazy, most forceful, most intense experience. It has a solid layout and solid theming, and that is the perfect package. It also highly resembles Montu within the theming and the color palette. I mean, not anymore. Montu decided to be quirky and also decided to turn hella ugly. I can't look at that anymore. But anyways, the highlighting moment of Osiris has to be that one overbank and the finale helix. Speaking of the devil, Montu falls in the number 4 spot. Besides from getting a god-awful repaint, Montu is often referred to as the best B&M invert. It's simply not. It's just referred to the best B&M invert because it's the best in America, and America is like the only country that exists and the only country that people care about.
America, yeah, coming again to save the day, yeah.
Montu has amazing theming, and every single element on this entire coaster absolutely delivers with the positive Gs, and the whip and pacing is all there. The best part is Montu has an amazing second half and never really lets up on the intensity, even with having a mid-course brake run. It also has that cool Egyptian theming, so that's a point to Busch Gardens Tampa right there. Starting off our top 3 is Katin, I have no idea how to pronounce this. This is one of the best standalone B&M inverts if you ignore theming. I mean, there is an attempt with some stargates, but it's not special. However, the layout is absolutely insane, and that all starts with the first drop. Like Skyrush, Katoon has an extra kick in that gives a solid pop of airtime, and that is well appreciated on a B&M invert. Like Montu, every element on this coaster absolutely delivers. It has 6 well packed in, well sequenced inversions, with 1 strong forceful vertical loop, a handful of rolls, and a forceful cobra roll. There is a mid-course brake run, but it doesn't hit at all. It feels more like trim brakes, and you fly through the amazing second half, just like you do on the first half. And that's why Katoon is so good. In the number 2 spot is Nemesis at Alton Towers. This is one of the most low-key inverts ever. I mean, it's not even 100 feet tall and the whole thing is dug into trenches. What makes this coaster so good is the layout. This layout, like all others, absolutely delivers the positive Gs, whip, intensity, all that jazz. I feel like I'm a broken record here because most inverts do have these features. Nemesis has the advantage of being dug out into trenches, so not only does it feel faster than it should, it has plenty of near-miss elements, and the only way I could describe this coaster is it is full balls to the walls. And besides a crazy experience, you also have the amazing theming. This is the best part of Alton Towers. More than their coasters is just their demonic way of enticing people to ride their rides, with terrifying backstories and advertisements, and the centerpiece of Nemesis really plays into that sick nightmare. I really hope Nemesis comes back good and new after the retrack, just how it was on opening day. Please, for the sake of you and me, Alton Towers, don't mess this up. Now it's time for the number 1 spot, and this may be an invert you have not heard much about. To give some hints, this invert has little to no theming. It's all about the intense, out-of-the-world, insane experience this coaster delivers. Another hint is that it's in Japan. You got it yet? It's Pyrenees. This coaster is literally just a big Batman clone. That's literally it. Imagine a Batman clone, but twice as tall, twice as intense, and twice as long. This is literally that coaster. Do I need to say more? You are hammered with some of the most out-of-the-world sustained positive Gs while flying in all sorts of directions. The 2 vertical loops, the Cobra roll, the helix, everything just delivers. The roll has an insane amount of whip, and this coaster is just so relentless. It does have a mid-course brake run, but it doesn't hit at all. You just fly through it like it was some good old trim brakes. There are even a few moments of airtime on this coaster, and yeah, it's just the perfect B&M invert. I did wish it had some theming, but hey, when you are riding literally the most intense coaster on the planet, are you really complaining about the theming? No, you aren't. That's all for today's video, guys. Let me know if you agree with my rankings in the comment section below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.